Hey friends, I wanted to make sure I got this up so there's not a lot of music or anything fancy that we've had in our last couple of episodes, but wanted to make sure that I kind of got this recorded while everything was top of mind. I just got done editing our episode for this week, episode 4, with the guys from One More Mana. Good group of guys, by the way. I think you should really go check out their channel. They do some really fun stuff. They have a fun game show series they're starting. So lots of interesting things there. But the topic of our dinner table talk segment, which we'll cover here on the nightcap this time, is we were talking about what are some issues that people of color deal with, when creating content that others may not have to deal with. And the biggest thing we kind of talked about is like there is, believe it or not, a level of privilege that comes with what you can and can't get away with and what you're putting out there content wise, right? Like if you take the opportunity to look at all those prank channels, they're all a bunch of white dudes, and not even young guys. Some of them are 30 and 40 years old out doing this stuff. And there's no way. I mean, we all four of us, being four black gentlemen on the podcast, all just said, no, there's no way we could do that. Like, we wouldn't even consider doing it. Even if you get beyond just don't want to do that to another human kind of thing, it's the fear of honestly, like, what's the danger in it for us? Like, do we get arrested, shot, who knows what, right? It comes off as an act of aggression. Would we even deal with a lot of backlash, online that some of those guys may not have to deal with? Like that's a thing. And I think it's something that goes without consideration. Even with doing our Color of Magic podcast, even though it's all very positive what we're trying to do, we had even had to have the talk beforehand about, okay, how would we be prepared to deal with these certain issues? Or what type of backlash can we expect? And it's kind of sad that when you talk to other people of color who are also content creators, they have that same understanding that it's not, oh, hey, let's just do this thing. And then whatever technical issue comes up or whatever thing somebody doesn't like, you know, the issues start with things that aren't even in their control. It's, well, how do we want to deal with the negative comments? How do we want to deal with people calling us whatever name? How do we know it's going to be accepted in this group because I'm the only person of color producing content in this space, relatively speaking? And it's tough that that even has to be a line of thought or questioning, to even have to get into that headspace when producing the content. You can't just produce it for what it is and call it good. There's kind of this lingering thing overhead that you're having to deal with the entire time. And it's also tough, and this is a little more abstract, but each time I look at a list of the top Twitch personalities or the top YouTube earning money earning channels, there's very few people of color in those. I was excited when I was looking up some technical stuff a couple of years ago and I saw Marquise Brownlee. He does a channel where he reviews like cameras, cell phones, stuff like that, and he's become one of the big ones. He's probably one of the better known ones now, actually, and he's starting to get really good guests for interviews and things like that. He's got people sending him equipment to review, and it was kind of sad that I was like, man, there's not very many to the point that he stood out. And it's hard to even say why. Like, is it because of just his skin color? Is it because in some spaces there's just not that many people of color or black people or whatever doing certain things, so there's just not the opportunity for them to even come up the ranks? I mean, I think there's a lot of stuff there that we just kind of don't really talk about. I'm not even saying it's outright a race issue because I truly don't know. Like I said, it could just be a matter of maybe a lot of minorities not getting the exposure to the technical aspects of things to even be interested in doing it. Maybe it's, for whatever reason, a financial issue where they don't have the money for all the proper equipment to do a good production. I mean, I've got some okay equipment around me and, a decent camera that you're watching me on. And, we were able to put together a podcast, but I also didn't spend a lot on my rig either in my setup. So to get what I really want, I'm probably still about $1,000 away. That'll come with time. But yeah, I think this was more just to I wanted this one to be kind of more of a think piece, I guess. Just when you're looking at content, kind of look around and just see how many people of color are in that space. If you can, support them, encourage them, because they probably need a lot of encouragement because there's not as many, and, they're dealing and thinking about a lot of things and preparing for a lot of negativity that may or may not come. It's also possible that for whatever reason, they're not getting the same support or the same sponsors that would sponsor other people. And honestly, it may not even be a thing you've thought about before. I mean, if we're just being honest about it. So, if you have a new space, reach out to them, or at least show them some encouragement, or share a couple of their links to get some people to look at their stuff and help them get some of that exposure. A lot of them aren't going to have the same networks. They're not going to have the same friends and people in place that do a lot of the same things they do. And a lot of these, I mean, I think we mentioned it back on episode 3 of the Color of Magic is, and even my co-host Brian, we're the only ones in our families, a generation either direction, that are into gaming. So we don't even have the family and immediate social network to promote a lot of this stuff. And again, I'm not saying this is anybody else's fault or anything like that. I think it's just the nature of the way society had gone for a while and what was accepted or popular in certain groups or cultures. And it's just slowly changing. So some of these people do need a hand up a little bit to try to at least network properly and get themselves out there. But yeah, I think that's it. Nothing real heavy this time. We're at the 7-minute mark, so this is a short one. But yeah, just want to do a follow up. If you haven't checked it out, check out episode 4. Like I said, we had a good talk with the guys from the One More Mana YouTube channel. And I think that's it. Check out our podcasts. We're having a good time over there. So yeah, wherever you're listening, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.